Hi, this is Andrew Groh with the Missouri Society of CPAs. This is MOCPA Bar Talk, where we talk about the latest trends, news, and issues that matter to you the most. Let's get started. Hi, welcome. My name is Andrew Groh, here with MOCPA. I'm here today with Dave Hartley, CPA with Anders CPAs Advisors. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
We're here to talk today a little bit about technology trends of the future, some disruptive technology issues, things that CPAs in Missouri and elsewhere really need to know and understand to be able to see the tech trends that are coming in the future.
Right.
Yep. Welcome, David.
Yep.
Why data analytics and what's new now?
Okay. Well, from an analytics perspective, I think you're right. There has been discussion, and you think about CPAs have used data, and our clients have used data for years. So there's nothing really new that's there. What is new is sort of the level of data that we can handle and the level of data that we can deal with. Plus, the technologies are advancing to the point. I think when I think back to the early days in my career, and I think of the tool sets that I had to work with, they were extremely limited. I started pre-internet. We were carrying around some Macintosh computers. So it is, and when I look at where things are now, that continuous evolution in tool sets and capabilities, that's happening now within the world of analytics. An aspect of analytics, and I think what most people have heard about is really the look back type analytics. I think what's exciting is that more and more around the predictive side of analytics, where we're starting to see that you can take a data set and you can actually turn it into knowledge. And as CPAs, historically, especially on the audit side, from an audit perspective, we've done sampling. Now, what these tools are creating the opportunity is to actually look at entire data sets, entire populations. And as a result of that, instead of having to pick a judgmental sample or a random sample, by being able to look at the entire population, then you can identify outliers. Your probability of finding the things that aren't right, that as an auditor you want to find, is going up dramatically because we have better tools. And so I think I think we're going to continue to see that play out. There's also been significant advances in data visualization in terms of the tools that are available for people to look at data in a totally different way than they've ever been able to look at it before. Being able to visualize populations and see things and then actually interact with the data. The tool set has been advancing significantly, and there's a lot more on the horizon that these tools are going to be capable of doing.
So, do you think that? Would you say that you've seen kind of in your career and talking with colleagues and other CPAs? Mm-hmm. We talk about data analytics. It seems like it's a big topic. Mm-hmm. Data analytics goes into the ether, right?
Yeah.
You talked about a couple of things. You talked about sampling. You talked about visualization. Mm-hmm. There's a whole science behind data analytics, mm-hmm. right? It's data science.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tease out why parse out the idea of data visualization, maybe data intake, data cleanup, and some of those different pieces?
Yeah.
Why parse those out?
Well, what I think it's important to look at, what is core in everything you just mentioned is data. And so we as CPAs, we need to get better at understanding populations of data and utilizing tools that can help us understand that data. Now, you're right, from a really sophisticated standpoint, there are some amazing things that are happening. What's happening, though, is that a lot of that is becoming accessible in a way that's never been accessible before. And I think that's really the difference. Like if you look at a lot of the things that we're looking at now, did they show up in research studies 10, 15, 20 years ago? Yes, they did. But the problem was there wasn't a tool set. We couldn't get the data. We couldn't work with the data that now we do have. And we have different ways and different tools to be able to look at it. So I think there's a lot that data is going to be very fundamental. And maybe we've talked about it, but I think for within CPA firms and also within our clients, do we really understand their data?
Right.
Do we really understand, the value that's going to be created by data on a go-forward basis? I mean, that's part of an asset that we need to make sure that we're thinking about with our clients. And then when you put on the cybersecurity hat, well, if that data is misused or put in a way that it's not supposed to, or from a privacy perspective, if we have issues with privacy, All of that is going to impact our client base. So, and it all comes back to data. So understanding the data you have, being able to work with it, understanding those tools, it's really something that from a maturity standpoint, maybe we can all do it now a little bit and we're okay with it. But what we need to do is mature to the point where we eventually become experts in working with data.
I think so too, from what we're hearing too, what the AI CPA certainly is sharing on this topic as well. And I think, and maybe you can speak a little bit to this, this type of concept and being able to analyze and advise on data moves CPA firms up the value chain.
Yeah.
I think we talk about the value chain quite a bit as a profession. I think that's where things are headed. And oh, by the way, of the 4 topics that we're talking about today, is this now starting to show up on the CPA exam for all CPAs?
Yeah, and I think that's another, when we talk about, going back to the Transformation Task Force, when we look at, there are a lot of things that have been talked about in the profession that when we look at 2020, these things are happening. So when you look at changes to the CPA exam, looking at, rather than having, and I just saw the model for the first time a couple of months ago, but when I look at it in terms of having a core that all CPAs should need to know and understand, and having expertise in that, but then having these having these different areas where you're a specialist and acknowledging that one of those is technology. Yep. That in addition to taxation or audit and analytics, just that core element of technology is something that we as a profession have to get better at understanding and utilizing on a go-forward basis.
I think that's fantastic, and all in line with the great work that your task force is doing, AI CPA, our profession moving forward. And I think moving forward, that value chain idea has been around for decades and decades, but we're seeing the pace of that change so quickly, and these tools being able to be leveraged to be able to make that happen.
Yeah, and I think the part of that is we've always, as CPAs, we've strived to be the most trusted advisor, and I think we've been successful. Our clients, when you look at how they perceive us, they do trust us. The issue is, and the challenge is, how do we as CPAs, when we look at the future way that business is going to be done, how do we stay relevant in these conversations? And it's really evolving from being the most trusted advisor to really being the most valuable advisor. So rather than our clients looking to their banker or looking to their attorney, there is a very valuable role that CPAs need to play, but it's different than where we are today. That's part of why these technologies are so important, because that's part of what we as a profession, our clients need us to help them in these areas. And it's different from anything we've done in the past.
I think it's super cool. It's an exciting time, when other CPAs embrace these types of things, moving up the value chain. Thank you for joining us for this edition of MOCPA Bar Talk. If you have any questions or would like to chat a little bit more about the issues that we discussed, just let me know. My contact information is below.